posted April 30, 2018. 6 hours, 38 minutes and 45 seconds to spend or to save. That's the tough decision NT Treasurer Nicole Manison is facing as she prepares to deliver her second budget on Tuesday. Pressure is coming from all fronts, with a diverse range of organizations staking their claim for funding. The ABC has spoken to some of the Northern Territory's key groups about what they want to see in the budget. BusinessThe Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce Deputy Chief Executive Brian O'Gallagher said the current economic climate was gloomy. Business is always resilient and optimistic, and they'll push through, he said, but it is hard times, so we definitely need to get a confidence boost out of this budget. The chamber wants to see more investment in strategic infrastructure like roads, rail and ports. It also called for payroll tax incentives for businesses that employ apprentices. It welcomed pre-budget announcements of savings measures, including 250 job cuts in the public service over the forward estimates. But Mr. O'Gallagher remained wary about the government's commitment to rein in spending. The devil will be in the detail. And when we get phrases like, a consideration of a position freeze, well, you either have it or you don't, he said. The Northern Land Council said the government's ballooning debt could not be used as an excuse to reduce funding for services and infrastructure in remote communities. There is a great need to have investment going into the bush around infrastructure, roads, and also health and education, NLC Chief Executive Joe Morrison said. He also urged the Gunner government to set aside money for a treaty commissioner ahead of the expected signing of a memorandum of understanding to negotiate a treaty between traditional owners and the territory government to proceed over the next few years. There's going to have to be a budget commitment for that work, Mr. Morrison said. We're hoping there's going to be one commissioner, but there's going to have to be some staffing support but also support for the treaty working group, which is made up of land councils, Northern Territory government and other peak Indigenous organizations. Health. The Australian Medical Association said an increase in the services offered in hospitals needed to be met with more beds to ease blockages in emergency departments. There has to be an appropriate recognition of the service provided and developing additional bed stocks both at Royal Darwin and the Palmerston Regional Hospital to accommodate this increased service delivery, AMA President Dr. Robert Parker said. The AMA also urged the government to improve mental health services for prisoners and increase education campaigns about sexually transmitted illnesses, particularly in Central Australia, where there has been a significant outbreak of syphilis. It really needs an effective sexual health intervention program, which involves sexual health educators, Dr. Parker said. We understand there's no funding for sexual health educators in the territory budget, so that's certainly something we really would like to see in the budget. Police. Northern Territory Police Association renewed calls for more police, saying the demands on its officers were too great. We've seen a lot of work that needs to be undertaken by police, and if you're not going to fund enough police to do that job, you can't be critical of crime. Statistics are rising, the association's president, Paul McHugh, said, because you've got to put your money where your mouth is and you've got to make sure there is enough funding for that to occur. Homelessness and Shelter, a housing advocacy group for people who are homeless and on low incomes, said it was pleased the government had committed to fund the recommendations of a review into town camps, as well as a public housing stimulus package. But it said crisis shelters and homelessness services were chronically underfunded. Unfortunately, in terms of comparison to the position more broadly in Australia, we have 12 times the rate of homelessness, NT Shelter's executive officer, Peter McMillan said, and the level of unmet demand for services is about 3 times that of the Australian average, so we have a lot of people in the Northern Territory who are homeless who can't get the services they need. Teachers. The Northern Territory branch of the Australian Education Union said it would like to see a significant increase in public school funding, but said the main issue was inadequate federal government support. The union's president, Jarvis Ryan, said the Gunner government had improved education funding but could not be expected to carry the load. I think everyone agrees that we would like to see more funding in our schools, and I think there is a lot of unmet need, Mr. Jarvis said. If we look at our remote schools, I think they're probably still short of where they need to be, and then in most schools we've got students with additional needs. I think the NT government under Michael Gunner has lifted its game and put back a lot more funding than the CLP government took out, but we've got a federal government that's not stepping up to the plate and in fact is looking to decrease its contributions over the next decade. Topics: budget, government and politics, community and society, health, law, crime and justice, NT.